Alrighty, guys. Well, with the conclusion of the MCU show Ironheart, it might be hard to believe we've actually finished another phase of the MCU. Come July 25th, I'm going to say 24th, when Fantastic Four First Steps hits theaters, we are actually entering Phase 6, the final phase, for some, very thankfully, the final phase of the multiverse saga. And so we are here to talk today about the final project of the MCU's Phase 5, Ironheart. Now, we'll talk more about this in a segment we're going to do a little bit later on in the podcast, ranking every single project in the MCU Phase 5. But the long and short of it is that the phases, while they never really meant anything before, it's not like, at the end of Ant-Man or at the end of the first Avengers, Iron Man looks at the camera and he goes, that's it, Phase 1 is done. Well, what could it mean? Although in the first Avengers, ironically, there was a little bit of a hint towards Phase 2, quote unquote, because of the weapons they were making. But I think that's more tongue-in-cheek. That has nothing to do, really, with the phases. It's more just a scheme. And really, what Phase 4 and Phase 5 has taught us is that they don't really mean anything anymore. And so that is what it is. But it's a easy enough organizing device for us to rank projects and look back on them. And who knows, maybe this will start our Phase 5 rewatch after the DCE rewatch that will hopefully be coming out at some point. So, but we also have the Defenders Saga rewatch. So long way to go until we get there. But still. So anyways, we're here to talk about Ironheart episodes 4 through 6 and the season as a whole, the entire season. This will be a spoiler discussion. So if you have not seen Ironheart episodes 4 through 6 or the entire season, make sure to just save this segment, save the podcast, save the YouTube video, wherever you're watching for later, and then come back once you have seen the episodes, or you don't care about spoilers. Welcome in. Let's talk about Ironheart. So like I said before, with the release schedule of Ironheart, it's interesting because they obviously did episodes 1 through 3 and then episodes 4 through 6 in 2 weeks, and that was a little bit of a red flag to begin with. And also, I maintain that the way that shows are released have a pretty big impact on how we view them. For example, I think WandaVision, while still great, still fantastic in a binge model, as we did with the rewatch series for Phase 4, as I just binged through the episodes, still great. But part of the initial excitement and the initial, the appeal to the show, and part of what makes me look back on it so fondly is the week-to-week anticipation between these episodes. And so, while it's hard to say whether or not, I would have enjoyed Ironheart more or maybe even significantly less if they had released it week-to-week, it didn't bode super well. Releasing 3 episodes in 3 episodes, it feels weird. It feels like you're watching half of a movie and then waiting a week and watching the rest of the other half of the movie. And so, looking back at Ironheart as a whole, we'll talk in detail about some of the things in these 3 episodes and then just quickly on the season as a whole. But, you probably have already seen it just based on if you're watching the segment clip or if you're looking on YouTube. The way that I probably will have titled this segment, it encapsulates how I feel about Ironheart. And that is this. Ironheart, to me, is a sketch of a really, really good show. It is a sketch of a phenomenal show, but a sketch, meaning that that sketches, right, just by nature, it's just the outline. You can see how it will be filled in. You can see the different pieces there, but it's not complete. It's not even near complete. It feels unfinished. And that's what Ironheart feels to me. And sketches use shorthand, use sloppier drawing techniques just to convey the ideas to where it's going to be a completed thing, a completed product a little bit later. But it's there to convey the ideas. And to me, Ironheart is a sketch of a very, very good show. Episodes 4 through 6. And of course, we're going to talk about Mephisto. We're going to talk about the big twist at the end, whatever. We'll talk about that in just a second. But before we even get there were so many times as I was watching these final 3 episodes where I went, that's a really interesting idea. How did we get there? Or, that's interesting. That wasn't set up at all. So I'm going to, I'm looking at my notes here. I'm just going to run through a couple of these things just as an example. First of all, Ironheart and her mom just running into magic people. And look, it's an interesting idea, but these characters, again, halfway through this show, just came out of nowhere. And it was like, oh, all of a sudden, hey, you kind of want magic. And it was shown again in the post-credit scene with Anthony Ramos's Parker. He was like, hey, I'm kind of interested in magic. So is magic that prevalent? Like, are wizards just like, yeah, or sorcerers just like, hey, yeah, I'll show you some magic. It doesn't matter to me. Is that is that allowed? Like, because they said these two characters, Zelma, is that her name? She was a Kamertage dropout, I think is what her mom was. And so, is Wong just like, yeah, like go out there and just hang out, right? Like Benjamin Bratt's character in Doctor Strange was using magic, but very, very rudimentary magic just to heal his back. And then obviously Mordo had a problem with that. Is Mordo running around here like, hey, there's these magic people in Chicago? This is all kind of beside the point. What I'm really trying to say here, more so than the MCU continuity logic, because honestly that matters much, much less to me than the actual story that's being told, is that these characters came out of nowhere to me. And it's like, okay, I guess you have magic people running around and here to tell you about it. It's Dormammu, which, by the way, a clever setup, because I'm sure they knew, or maybe they had an inkling after WandaVision that, oh, everyone's interested in Mephisto, so let's do a little bit of a misdirect. And I was like, oh, interesting, because the misdirect was like, oh, maybe it is Dormammu. Like, that would have made sense as well, especially with Clea. Maybe it would have even made more sense, honestly, with Clea allegedly being in the MCU now with Doctor Strange. So, and Clea is the niece of Dormammu in the comics, for those of you who don't know. So, that was one thing. That was one thing that was really weird. The other another big thing is Ironheart building an Iron Man suit in a garage out of a car, because I think it's one thing if she builds an Iron Man suit that resembles, what the Mark 1 or something in between the Mark 1 and the Mark 2. That's fine and all. This suit, though, was comparable to her other suits. And I was looking at it and I was like, there are logic leaps, and then there's this, and it has nothing to do with Riri Williams as a character and questioning her genius and whatnot. Because I know that there are some people who are like, no, just because she's not, let's be honest, a white man, she can't do this. And that's totally wrong. That has nothing to do with it. It's really just stretching the realm of believability here, where it's like, oh, can people like just do this? Because I get it. Like one of the hopes that I had heading into Ironheart was that they were really going to show that she was a genius, and they did. I think they didn't have enough time to really dive into it, but they did. Although it seems like anyone who has access to a computer and can type really fast is just a genius now in the MCU. I digress. It's one thing, though, in Wakanda, when you have access to literally generationally advanced technology, right, in Wakanda with vibranium. That's one thing, to build an Iron Man suit in a couple days. To build it in a garage out of a car is, I don't know. I mean, that's crazy to me. So that's another thing. A third thing, right, and this is probably the last thing, because there were other areas where I was like, what is going on? Like, how does that make sense? Is Ezekiel Stane. I like the character in general. I like Alden Ehrenreich as Ezekiel Stane. First of all, didn't give hardly any characterization to him at all after the reveal that he was Ezekiel Stane in episode 3. Then it was just like, yeah, like, I don't want to be my dad. I'm going to prison. I'm angry at you. Which, by the way, that was a good scene. I like that the scene where he was talking to Riri in the prison. But, and then it's like, hey, I'm going to take this deal with Parker, which, okay, slow down, but okay, sure, I can buy that. And then I'm just going to sit down on this table and get nanites injected into my body. Like, whoa, really? Like that quickly? On top of the fact, I mean, more of a logically, but that these nanites can actually work, like this technology exists in the world. And I get it, it's Ezekiel Stane, it's not just anybody, but still, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And then he turns into Emperor Palpatine and just starts shooting lightning out of his fingers. And I was like, what is happening? And I don't know much about Ezekiel Stane in the comics. Maybe that is his power. Maybe he literally is Emperor Palpatine in the comics. But that was bizarre to me. Again, these things are interesting in isolation. Like the fact that Ezekiel Stane really doesn't want to be like his father, but kind of ends up becoming like his father, but still has a soft spot for Riri Williams. And then he also has been messing around with this technology, this biotechnology. Like all that stuff is interesting in concept. And, the other thing I wanted to point out quickly is Parker, right? Parker, the fact that he, wanted to get back at his father, his really, really rich father who abandoned him, that is a really good setup. That's a really good emotional motivation for him as a character to then want to go out and prove him wrong, become, what do you say, filthy, disgusting, greasy rich or whatever. That makes sense. It's just that it came out of nowhere. I mean, you have like 5 minutes where they're talking to one another and then it's just over and you're like, oh, I mean, that's it? Like, I would have loved to have spent maybe 20 minutes, an entire episode about this entire thing, which, this is a theme. And on the one hand, you can't really blame Ironheart, because Ironheart was coming out at the time. It was filmed 3 years ago. In 2022, Ironheart was filmed in 2022. And for whatever reason, and I'm sure we'll get an explanation in 10 years or at some point of why this show took so long to come out, but this was coming out at the time when the 6-episode Disney Plus shows were perceived to have been working. And to be fair, some of them, like Hawkeye, I think really do work. Loki Season 2 really do work. We'll talk about that in the Phase 5 rankings. But, I mean, even Loki Season 2, I think, should have been just put with Loki Season 1 as 12 episodes. But I digress. This was out at the time when it was just like, make as many 6-episode shows as you possibly can instead of making fewer shows that were 12 to 15 episodes, which would have been great. I think Ironheart would have been a great 12 episode show. I really, really do. And so all these things are outlines of a very, very good show. We spend like 20 minutes in the show at White Castle with Riri Williams getting attacked, which is fine. Like, it's in isolation, those kinds of things are fine. Except it's 6 episodes, and each episode, to be fair, each episode was a little bit longer than the normal Disney Plus fare. They were about, I would say, 35 to 45, 50 minutes, which is good. That's good. More so in the 40-minute range. That's good. Like, if each episode is 40 minutes long, I'm good with that. Instead of the, like, 28-minute episodes that Agatha were, for example. But, and Agatha was a different show. I maintain that. I understand that. But I just think it's like we can't be spending real estate, precious real estate, if you will, on a fight scene at White Castle, is my opinion. It just took away from the momentum of the show because people have been saying in their first reactions to Ironheart that the show is okay, the show is fine, the show is whatever, but the ending is good. And so the ending, right, we'll talk about Mephisto now. The ending is interesting. The ending is very interesting. I did not see the twist coming of her taking the deal. I didn't see that coming. That's interesting to me. All these things, right? All these things are set up for a very interesting next season where you have Ezekiel Stane, who is kind of out there being like an enemy, and then also, vaguely on her side. And then you have this idea of Mephisto because she took the deal with Mephisto. That is super interesting as a character choice. And I think it is totally in line because when the first episode came out, I was, the show starts, and it's intentional. It's dropping you right into the flashbacks between Natalie and Riri, and I was like, what is this? Like, what's going on? But by the time you get to the last shots of the season, you're like, oh, understood. And all of those discussions about, is it ethical to even bring back a person from life with AI? That's super interesting. Granted, while it was fleshed out more than the other things I just talked about, I think that it should have still been fleshed out a little bit more, but really interesting concept that leads to this finale with her and Mephisto, which, by the way, Sacha Baron Cohen did a really good job as Mephisto. I don't know, based on the model that they're doing now with movie characters and TV characters mostly being sidelined and mostly being siloed, if he's going to show up ever again in a big capacity, but I really liked him. I thought he did a very, very good job. And so we end the show in a very interesting place where Riri Williams has brought her friend back to life and has taken a deal with the devil. That is very interesting. The question becomes, is Riri Williams, I have a really hard time saying that, Riri Williams, is she ever going to show up again in the MCU in a big role? They're thinking about doing Champions. If they do Champions, which is Young Avengers basically, could she be the villain? I think that would be a fascinating arc for her. Because I think that while she made her big screen debut in Black Panther Wakanda Forever, it looks like they're moving away from that. She might appear again in Avengers Doomsday. She might. But then how are you going to explain the fact that she's possessed by the devil? Like, what is that? How are you going to explain that? So I don't know how that's going to function in future projects in continuity with the MCU, but I do know that the show ended on a very interesting place. So overall, as we look back on this season, I didn't love it. I thought it was okay in places, but never were there moments where I was so locked into the characters and so captivated by what was going on. I know they called it out, but I said it before in the previous spoiler discussion, but the hood itself as a costume looks just silly. And I know they call it out. I know they do, but it looks silly to me. There are just so many things in this show that I'm like, oh, really interesting. Oh, it's over. Oh, what's that? Oh, that's over. And, oh, how did we get there? That doesn't make any sense. There were so many moments in the show that were like that. And it just left me feeling like I missed something, like I was wanting. That being said, the things that they did set up in the show. So now Riri Williams has her best friend back. And now, now she's experienced a lot of things. Now she has Mephisto on her side. Maybe Sacha Baron Cohen can be a supporting character in the next season, if they do next season. Because honestly, I don't know if that's going to happen, right? I like the magic and tech stuff. I like Ezekiel Stane. There are things that make me go, I do want to see where this goes next. And I think that, there's potential here. But overall, I cannot say that I loved Ironheart Season 1. I know when I say, for example, Moon Knight Season 1 was missed potential, I mean that there was brilliant stuff that you saw. Like, Episode 1 was brilliant of Moon Knight. And I think the concept of Episode 5 of Moon Knight was brilliant. It's just that there were messy things here and then. The finale kind of fell flat, whatever. I think Ironheart is a step down from that when I say missed potential for Ironheart, because I think Ironheart, nothing in Ironheart really made me go, oh, wow, that's amazing, right? Maybe aside from the ending. That was great. That was really well done. But they planted the seeds for a very interesting next step in her journey. And I'd be lying if I didn't say I didn't want to watch Season 2. I think Dominique Thorne did a good job. And I think that, if Marvel was considering making a Season 2, I'd be interested to see where they were going from there. I just don't know. We'll keep an eye out for the ratings for whatever Ironheart is going to end up at. But I don't know, frankly. So we'll see where we go from there. Guys, those are my thoughts on the last 3 episodes and the entire season of Ironheart. Did you guys have a chance to see it? What did you guys think of Mephisto? I know we've been waiting for him for quite a while now. Let me know in the comments down below.